Oh, there we go. Okay, it's starting recording now.
No, I don't see you. There
Oh,
we go.
yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
you are.
We disappeared for a second. Welcome back to the Day After podcast. Always technically sounds always.
It's just Skype me. Skype had off. Now it's back. So I'm getting some emotional right now.
Yeah. Also, as you can see, Ryan is in a new location. You would care to go into details?
So I'm visiting my grandma and mom for the Christmas time. So next week I'll be back in my usual makeshift self-tape studio. But right now I'm chilling.
hmm Yeah, my mom might come in because it's close to the time where she goes to sleep, and she always says good night. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But just bracing you for when that moment might happen.
It's all good.
Okay.
It's real.
Yeah. Okay. So we're doing a special episode today. This is our first preseason for season 40. And we decided to rank our top 10 players of Survivor of all time.
Which I was never sat down and ranked everyone before. This is my like I've always had like my favorites in mind, but making a 10 list I haven't done for Survivor contestants yet.
Yeah.
Well, up until this moment, a week ago.
Yeah, and most seasons have one or two people who I really love or at least liked, and it was really hard cutting some of those people who I really loved in their season, but there were just other people who were better.
There were some people like this list took me. I was playing Bad Santa while I was making this list. It
Mhm.
took me the entire Bad Santa just to narrow it down to like 10 people, and that's like an hour and a half movie.
Yeah,
Like
it was.
because there that we just love, and there's like, why do I value this one over this one, and
Yeah.
justifying things.
Yeah, and it's tough too because there are some really great characters and stuff, but they might not have been on the best seasons, and because of that, it's also kind of like, well, do you like the people or do you like the seasons? It can get really complicated in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I did also measure that into it as well. I mean, my criteria are where I chose someone over. I guess it came down to like three different things. A, how relatable they are to me, and if you see like some of the people's on my list, you'll see why I chose them.
hmm
B, if I like their story, or C, how great of a player they are, and that can be determined by guts, by gameplay, risk, and yeah, or just like straight up going for it. Or sometimes if they've one person who's actually ranked pretty high on our list, uh, their first season they were kind of wallflowery, but
hmm
when they came back, it won me over. Uh, you'll know when we talk about that person.
Yeah, because I have to be honest, like when I look back on it today, I was like, do they deserve that high ranking? But I was like, but that was such a great outing that they did. But should we rate it just on their best outing? It's just see, I really went into a lot of just how entertaining were they? Were they entertaining? Were they making smart plays, or when they made dumb plays, were they fantastically dumb? Like I very much was like I wanted them to make it through every tribal council because I wanted the next episode to be able to see them. That's how I ranked it.
Yeah, and I feel you have a lot of great players on your list as a result. Um, and we even had some people, overlap. We shared three people that were
Yes.
so two people were kind of like almost close to being on my list. That's on his list.
Mhm.
I do have a few. honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Jerry from Australia All Stars and Heroes versus Villains. She
Ooh.
was very close to being on my list. Very, very close.
Uh-huh.
And then I'd say another one is Wu. I really liked Wu.
Hmm.
Yeah, he made the one decision that cost him the game, but I just like his energy, his spirit, and
Yeah.
he just seems like a great guy. I think part of the reason it was so tough narrowing it down. Like Wu, I was fighting hard for, but it came to like 12, 13 people left. Wu had to go. I think he may have
Yeah.
been. He was one of the last two.
Yeah.
I
But
have
my honorable mentions, I almost put Steven Fishbach on there as well.
respect.
Yeah, because he was really good in both seasons. Like I was rooting for him. But for someone else who's on the list, I feel like I enjoyed them a little more, and he's kind of a very similar archetype. And I just feel like I didn't want to put all of the same kind of characters on my list. Um, and then my female one, I always put Amanda Kimmel because of the 3 seasons that she did. I mean, they were she was great in it.
She was someone I was considering for a while.
Yeah.
Because she is very sweet, and I love the little showman she had in fans versus favorites. Like
Yeah.
when Ozzy was, I'm glad I didn't win my first season. That way, if I did, I never would have met you. Like
Yeah.
that was sweet.
Yeah. Like honestly, she's probably like my number 11 or 12.
Yeah, she was a great player.
Mhm.
When I watched Heroes versus Villains, I didn't know like this is also funny enough when I started watching the show too. So the only people I knew on the show were Russell Hantz, Coach, and JT.
Hmm.
So like everyone,
JT's another guy who like I mean maybe if Game Changers didn't happen, I maybe put him on the list.
yeah, Game Changers. He kind of lost a lot of stock.
Yeah, he lost a lot of his credibility. Like he should have just been fine with Heroes versus Villains. He made a terrible move, but like it was a great terrible move.
This was when they didn't know who Russell Hantz was.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
this move made it. Or now, if you play with someone who you don't know in a returning season, you fear them, and it was because of this move.
exactly.
Hmm.
Which good thing about season 40, and we can talk about it guilt-free now,
Yeah.
is that everyone had the ability to see everyone else's season. So
Yes.
that's a plus.
It's going to be interesting really seeing if people evolved their game or if they were like, well, I won it this time, I'm just going to play the same game.
I mean, there are different strategies. I know I know some people in like the Pokemon Go community where it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes it works for them. For me, it depends. Sometimes if
Yeah.
I stick to one thing, I tend to like stick to it no matter what, even if logic tells me not to stick to it. But
Yeah.
it's an entirely different game, and like especially earlier players, and especially some of the floater winners,
Hmm.
because we have a few up there.
There are a few people who I do think could be taken as goats, and somehow it's a winter season, but there's like a couple of them that can still do it.
When I saw who, because I didn't remember Danny, I had to
Uh-huh.
look her up.
Yeah.
And when I was like, oh yeah, you won over Stephanie.
Yeah.
I like you.
Well, I mean, she had a very interesting strategy because she felt that the producers would sabotage her to let Stephanie win. So she purposely didn't give good confessionals so that the producers didn't know what she was planning on doing. So you can't use like so they couldn't use like any of her confessionals. So she basically got a purple edit as the winner.
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Especially with what happened to Stephanie in Heroes versus Villains.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get back on to our list. So there's a total of 17 survivors on our list, and because a lot of our lower rankings are very different, they're pretty much tied. Because we basically based it on a rating scale. If you put someone as your number one, they got 10 points. If you put someone as your number 10, they got 1 point, and it's basically just fluctuating throughout that. And so in our lower list, there's a lot of people who are kind of uh, different because there's only two of us here. So there's a lot of ties.
Yeah, there are a few ties. We do have people, or there's only like 3 of them that don't like share a person with. There's only like 3 contestants, but we will get there when we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's really nothing that we could have done to separate those. So let's just get into it. So our number 10 best survivors are Rick Devens and Ken Huang. I don't know how what?
I'm going with Huang. I'm going with Huang.
Yeah, that's what I've always thought. So I'll go into why I chose Rick Devens first. Because he was my number 10. And I wanted to give some love to the newer seasons because a lot of people kind of don't look at the newer seasons because they haven't played a second time. They're new. There's the recency bias and all that kind of stuff. But Rick Devens is the only redeeming quality of Edge of Extinction, and he is great like every time he is on the screen.
He is a great player. I think also one of the reasons is like people are iffy to put newer players on is because one thing that shows anything is great. If we're talking about songs, contestants, movies, etc., is how well they can be memorable or how well they stand the test of time or years later or something like that. Like, we remember Back to the Future because it's such a great movie. It's iconic. But how many other films came out during that, year that, we haven't even heard of or like they kind of got lost. Like, so I think it's easier to, so I guess I understand that mentality. I think I need to scan over my list. Do I have anyone? Well, I mean, other than like players that have returned in like I'll say with the 30 seasons, like the seasons in the 30s, but it's because the other characters may have not have had as big of an impact yet, or like, it's like they haven't, because, in earlier drafts, I had even like Elaine and Janet on it, like when I was writing down all my favorites from each, but I was like, will I still feel the same way about Elaine and Janet 2 years from now? Maybe.
Yeah.
They were really young. Yeah. But it's like I will say, like, other than another character we may or may not talk about later, I think that Rick was like, that was his season to lose, and unfortunately, but he is definitely someone you see them bringing back, even 4 times.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a returning season. I feel like the next returning season that he can be in, they're going to get him. But I also want to go over, because I wanted someone who had not played yet, like a second time. So season 35, I was looking at Dr. Mike as a potential person for the spots. I thought he was hilarious. Ghost Island, I was thinking about Dominic Abate, because he almost won the damn thing. I was rooting for him.
I was too.
Yeah, and then David versus Goliath, I had Christian Hubicki and Angelina Keeley. those two were amazing television.
And also Ryan from that season, mostly because of the name share. He's the Ryan that has gone the furthest in the game. So he gets points for that.
Yeah, exactly. And then as you see, Rick Devens got the 38, and then Elaine was my Island of the Idols potential.
Yeah.
But I ended up choosing Rick Devens because I gotta say, out of just gameplay, he was my favorite to watch.
Yeah, and great character.
Yeah.
So why chose Ken from a season that I know you are not the biggest fan of?
Yeah, the Gabon is honestly, it might hit bottom 5. Maybe it's just a little higher up, but it's potentially down there.
I don't like Gabon because it had some good moments in it. I liked Bob. I thought Sugar was, she was sweet.
I thought I thought she was bitter. She was so bitter.
I liked her. Anyhow, I thought Randy was hilarious, and he had probably one of the best line sides ever. He was laughing. He was like, and the look on his face was so hilarious when he got voted out, when he thought he was safe.
Yeah, he is the best part of the season, but he goes off way too early for me. The Gabon maybe gets higher if he's like 4th or 5th off, or like 4th or 5th, place.
He didn't even last that long in Heroes vs. Villains.
Yeah.
But reason why I chose Ken was because, one, he is a gamer. He used to be like really, really big in, like Smash Brothers. Like earlier I was looking at, like some of the tournaments he won, and like he was going in first place in a lot of them.
Yeah, he won Evolve like twice.
And like, he retired around 2008, and like around that time, like just looking at that, like, I mean, after when he came back for some, like his scores got a bit lower, but like before that, like, wow, like he was really, really good. And then, like I kind of relate to the nerdy characters a bit more, and like Ken, he just seemed like a nice guy. He was an underdog, and I appreciated it. Also, I felt like he grew a lot during his season as well, and he was definitely the person I was rooting for to win. So
I definitely have to say, I'm surprised he didn't come back. Him and Randy were probably the best parts of Gabon, and I figured if anyone would come back, it would be Ken or Randy. Randy did for a short period of time, but still winning on Ken.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many times they can bring people back. Well, who knows? Bob is coming back for 5.5. You count Island of the Idols. But anyhow.
Yeah. But those are also, I believe, the only one-time players are our number 10s that we've put on our list.
Yeah.
So that's interesting how that turned out.
Yeah, I also felt like, I wanted to choose someone who wasn't on, like more than one season too. Kind of like with, why you chose Rick. That's kind of like thing was like, because there are some great players that haven't played more than once, and I think Ken is one of them. All right.
Yeah, not every great player has time to play with more than one. Okay. Right, so we'll alternate. Yeah, you do 9.
All right. We have. Oh wait, this is my top 10 movies of the decade. I've been making a lot of top 10.
Yeah, I ranked all of Rick and Morty episodes, so.
We'll talk about that later. So we have for our good man Joe, Richard Hatch, and for me, I got Lex from season 3 and 8. For the reason I chose Lex, like when I first saw him, he was in Survivor All Stars. Because I don't watch things out of order, but I thought he was an interesting, guy. I thought he was cool. And then when I watched him in his original season 3, granted I knew Ethan won, but it was like, man, this guy's so cool. I just kind of wanted him to win, even though I knew his fate. And I'm like, wow, like I just liked his gameplay. He was just a cool guy,
Mhm.
as well as he was doing pretty good in challenges. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
Lex.
liked him in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
early.
Go for it.
No, I liked him in the earlier seasons too. Like
Mhm.
he was a good fit for that era of Survivor.
Yeah, so Lex actually stated that his demographic that liked him the most were younger kids and old people. Not, which is crazy. Not really the middle ground. It's young or old.
Really, I guess man, or like I was still developing when I saw Africa, so I was like,
Mhm.
and yeah, but that's interesting. Old people, I mean, he's not like the typical because he has an alternative look, but he's like, hey man, fuck you. So yeah, I guess
Yeah,
maybe that.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just it was different, and they wanted to watch something that was different for them. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I like your Lex pick. I think he was definitely one of the better characters in early Survivor.
Yeah. And
So
speaking
yeah,
of fire,
yeah, one of the earliest characters to ever be seen on Survivor, Richard Hatch, comes in at my number ninth place. Um, and it's like you have to give respect to Richard Hatch. Um, admittedly, like it's such a basic idea that he had when he was first playing the game, but no one else thought of it when they were out there. Create an alliance, have people have your back. That's all you have to do. And
yeah.
no one else was thinking of that. Everyone else was just like, we'll just vote off who's the laziest, who's not getting along with everyone.
Order. That was the thing I heard about. I was like, what? Someone actually played like that? Alphabetical order? And I'm like, okay. Early Survivor.
Yeah, and
So yeah,
they used it to their advantage. It was the craziest thing.
yeah. Um, so props to Richard. Like he was the first OG player in the sense of like he understood what it was at that time and what
Yeah,
it would involve into.
he got the game before anyone else. And also just the final
Yeah.
immunity challenge, one of the most ingenious moves ever of just saying, okay, I'm not going to play because now one of you guys has to make the decision, and you're definitely going to take me because if Rudy wins, he loses to Kelly. But if Richard won, he can't cut Rudy because Rudy would beat him. It was a crazy, just like everything would have
I
gone to Richard winning somehow.
in his mind and technically in actuality it was checkmate. Well,
Yeah,
I mean at least for like on Rudy's part, like um, yeah, like and also even in All Stars, even with that one little and like he was fun in there. Even when he got voted off, his send up, I've been bamboozled. Like I
yeah,
say, like that was my favorite from that season.
yeah. I'm really surprised he didn't get brought back for the all winner season. Like I feel like you needed Richard Hatch for an all winner season.
I think maybe because of Dan, especially
Yeah,
because
that and I think even Richard said that like if Dan didn't happen in 39, he probably gets a call.
yeah. Um, but like that's the one thing about Rich. Like it is something where it was also like early Survivor. This was like almost what 15 years ago. So it was a different thing back then where not everyone was as aware as they were to. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean he was still pretty funny. And the
yeah.
whole getting naked and stuff. I mean it's just ridiculous.
It's
No.
crazy, and like he does it strategically because he's trying to put people on edge. Like,
Games are real. Like, this is a mental game above anything else. So you
Uh-huh.
have to like throw people off your game, and also no one expects much from a goofball. This has been a strategy that people have done in future seasons. I
Mhm.
keep saying Fabio, be a goofball, don't take me seriously, and therefore they won't see me as a threat.
Uh-huh.
Tyson did the same thing, kind of, also parading around the tribe naked.
Yeah.
No one sees him as a threat. Um,
Uh-huh.
you know, yeah, so Richard Hatch was the OG of that, you know, started that.
Hmm.
Like, being not being seen as a threat, as well as like having an alliance. So like he does encompass a lot of big survivor strategies that we still see today.
Hmm. Yeah. I think he might go on that Mount Rushmore if there was a Mount Rushmore survivor. I think he just has to. Like you just got to give respect to the first person to win.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to number eight then. This is the first person who has a little area all to themselves. And we have Ryan's pick of Andrea Belke. And I'm
Yeah.
really curious on this one because she was nowhere near my top 10.
Right. Admittedly, part of the coach is cute.
I figured.
Also, she has proven herself to be a very great competitor, beating. And she won her way back on Redemption Island when no one was expecting her to win that.
Uh-huh.
And in Game Changers, she also made it to. She made it so far where it was like, granted, a lot of people were gone then. Where it was like, oh crap, I can see her winning this. Um, Also, she's just doing some research on her, like backstory and everything. She is very inspiring, because in everyday life she has been underestimated because oh yeah, blonde, girl, pretty. People kind of like brush her off, and then so that kind of like in her own way, that little underdog status is like she's able to fight through it. One thing I was also choosing with my criteria is also I like and I like she had fire in her. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think what really makes her go down on my list is the 3 seasons that she played. She lost to very dominant players. Boston Rob played one of the best games the game has seen.
Yeah.
Cochran played one of the best games the game has seen. Sarah, I mean, she played a great game too in Game
It
Changers.
just was always one person that was just a little or like a lot better. But I
Yeah.
still think that if she was given the right season, who knows? They bring people back 5 times. She comes again. I feel like she is going to be reckoned with.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe she gets top 25 on my list. I'm not sure.
Like the hundreds of contestants, 25 ain't too bad.
Yeah, but yet again, that's I don't know. There were a few people who I think would have beaten her. But anyways, on to number 7 on our list.
All
I
right.
have Malcolm Freeberg. Oh yeah, you're going for it.
All right. Like you said, he has good old Malcolm Freeburn, right?
Yeah,
I forgot to write the last names. And
it's all
then I
good.
chose Monica Pepper. Now, part of the reason I chose Monica Pepper, it goes back to into similar ways like Andrea, where, you know, Monica, she is a fighter. She did so well in Blood versus Water. Like she was winning challenges. She made alliances with Tyson, who ended up winning that and was able to bring her pretty far. Also, I felt like if a certain someone in One World wasn't around, she would have made it further in the game.
Uh-huh.
But like, and also like when she was, it was during one immunity challenge where, Jeff is talking to her, and then she was like, it's like, you know, she was like, my husband usually gets a lot of praise for being, the tough one. I want to show my kids that Mama's tough too. Yeah, and then that in that moment, I really started to appreciate her more because like she is tough. Because Brad gets a lot of praise too. Also, as a Survivor contestant, when he came back for Game Changers, Brad did pretty well the second time around. But like like Monica, like her, trying to be more than just like a pretty woman, like a trophy wife, basically, and breaking that. I appreciate it, and I think she did great with the limited time she was in One World, and then in Blood versus Water.
Yeah, she's another person I questioned the choice of Monica Culpepper, because all I remember for her is her soundbite of "What's best for Monica." That's what I remember her for.
Okay.
But you're entitled to your opinion. I don't think I put her in my top 25. Like maybe top 50.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I have Malcolm Freeberg, because Philippines. It was his season. I wanted him so bad to win Philippines. Like all he had to do, like if he didn't turn on Denise at Final Four, he is probably sitting there and has a chance of beating Denise.
Yeah.
But he was afraid because him and Denise had similar stories, with Denise maybe being slightly better, and it was all up to him just being a more likable person, and he didn't want to risk that, so he tried to flip on her. Didn't happen.
And losing the last immunity challenge, that is a killer to a lot of people's game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who, if they won the last mini challenge, they probably win that season.
I mean, like I said, I feel Lex would have won his season. He had one last immunity challenge. I felt like that would have been his season, and we've seen it a lot of times. It's just like the one thing that was like he too, like doing the things together and just collapsed on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you also have him in Caramoan. He has one of the best tribal councils in Caramoan, with the three amigos, where they all idle out Philip Shepard.
And Philip was like, "All right, just vote for me. Vote for me."
Yeah, that was definitely the best tribal in all of Caramoan. And then Game Changers, like it wasn't even his fault for going out fourth in Game Changers. Like it was JT's stupidity and getting idled out there. It was
just insanity of that tribal in general. Yeah. Like and Game Changers. Blindsides. When Malcolm went, like, for me, Game Changers was the season of like that was the Red Wedding, where a lot of people that I really and like and Malcolm was one of the most shocking ones too, because it was like first, we've never seen that where the two tribes vote someone out. And so, it's like the two competing and everything. And then, this was like the first real time we saw the whispering. Or just see to that extent, see everyone like whispering, making deals and stuff. It just happened. And I was like, oh crap, who's it going to be? And then I saw Malcolm's name, and I was like, no!
Yeah, that season suffers from its big
Outscore.
characters going out in pre-merge.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, on to number 6. I have Parvati Shallow, and she's my number 6. And then you have Tyson Apostle, who is your number 6.
And Parvati was also an honorable mention for me because Parvati, she's great. Also, kind of like in like Parvati, like known as like probably the hottest contestant.
Yeah.
Like that thing of like. And did you ever? I was watching this thing. It was for like casting, kind of like casting advice, and she was originally, auditioning for The Amazing Race, and then like the casting director for that also casted for Survivor.
Yeah, Lynn
like,
Spielman.
Yeah, and then it was like out of your two friends, who was like, how do you do that this person? Almost like, without question. And that's when she knew that, all right, she needs to be on Survivor.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great in all 3 of her seasons. Cook Islands, even Yul was just like, wow, she's actually dangerous. And even though he had control at that moment. Yeah, and then obviously Micronesia, she won one of the another great game. Heroes versus Villains, I would have voted for Parvati in there more than Sandra.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, I think Sandra has a good game, but I just never really thought she was the winner of the season. Either of her two.
Sandra's not an iconic character if she doesn't win Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah.
Also, I want to state real fast. Parvati and Tyson, who share this spot, are both going back for winners at War.
I feel some of these ones that we have chosen have they do have a theme in a way so far. Like other than Andrea, like Rick and Ken, only 2 characters on our list that have been in one season. Both early Survivor contestants. Andrea, Malcolm and Monica.
Yeah.
So
Richard and Lex are both early survivors.
Haven't played since. Harmony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So tell everyone why Tyson's a great character.
Kind of like your whole theme. It's like he's very entertaining to watch. He's also someone where like he doesn't take everything too seriously in general. Like I was for Heroes vs. Villains. He was like, free tropical getaway. It's like he's a funny guy, and I've seen his audition. So it's literally just him out at a gas station talking to a bunch of different, and it's so entertaining. Like, he's a charismatic guy. He's very, very strategic. He's not afraid to play dangerously. Like, and let's throw rocks. He wants to do that. He's like, all right, if that's what it comes down to, fine, we'll do it. Because he has this I don't care mentality, and that gets him so far. Well, except in versus Villains. But
he's definitely someone that I thought about putting on the list, but I just felt like there are other people who I valued higher. Because I did like his Blood vs. Water game and his Tocantins, but I actually saw Heroes vs. Villains first before any of those seasons, and I was just like, man, this guy's one of the dumbest players ever. He basically voted himself out.
fair. Because I
Oh,
told you in at home, the first Survivor season I actually watched was Toka Teens, but it was after Tyson was eliminated. I think it was Final Six where I joined in, but
uh,
yeah, um, but I don't know. It's just like all of that where great character,
yeah,
very charismatic, good gameplay, and unpredictable times, like strolling through camp naked or something like that. He's just fun to watch, and
mhm.
so he's coming back for the next season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm excited to see how he plays in this next season.
yeah, gonna be
Okay.
fun. All right. Oh, I'm on 12%. Uh,
Oh,
I,
geez.
I started with 50. I'm gonna get my charger real quick. Why don't you take this one and tell the peeps?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, so number 5, I have Rob Sesternino, and Ryan has Sierra Easton. Uh, so Rob Sesternino, great game in Amazon. Like he reinvented the game. Like he should have been on Game Changers because he literally created the idea of flipping. Because the first 5 seasons, it was make an alliance, have the numbers by the merge, take them out, and then figure it out from there. But Rob was like, well, I can manage both alliances and basically control the game that way, which was just unheard of at the time. And Ryan is now adjusting his camera. There it goes. Okay, I don't think he has his earbuds in, so he can't hear me. Uh, but yeah, that is why Rob Cesternino needs to return again. Rob has a podcast. Get him on the show. Okay.
Yeah, he is a character that, I'm surprised he hasn't been brought back because he is very likable.
Yeah.
I like I said, he's one of the characters where I knew his fate, but I still was like kind of like rooting for him when I first saw Rob play. Like, granted, the first time I saw he was up against Boston Rob, and I'm like, oh well, clearly Boston Rob is a superior Rob, but Rob C, like he's still a respectable Rob.
Rob C is a more entertaining Rob. Because Boston Rob has his moments, but he has such dominant gameplay
I
that
feel
overhauls it.
I feel that the first season Boston Rob played, he was kind of just like a bonehead, kind of like just all muscle. But like I was actually surprised when I first saw Boston Rob play. Whereas Rob C, like he brought it his season, his first initial season, and due to shenanigans, Rob C went out pre-merge and stuff in
Yeah.
the next.
Yeah, I was like, that's another reason I got upset at All Stars. Like, I just wanted him at least to get to the merge. Like, if he went out like first in the merge, I'm fine. But no.
class. Sometimes you can't control that.
Yeah.
Sometimes characters really, really love just get out early, and you just kind of have to move on from that and accept that their records are kind of screwed up
Yeah.
forever now.
Yeah. But he should come back because he's still big into the Survivor community.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I like it. He's even like toyed with, well, if I do come back, I want blah blah blah. So it doesn't seem like he is so anti it.
yeah. I think I'm honestly surprised he wasn't even on a second chance when it came to the votes
Well,
either.
because he played 2 times already.
Oh yeah, duh. I'm
Yeah,
dumb.
yeah.
Anywho,
Game changers, he could have come back, but I don't.
he could have replaced one of them.
Yeah.
Uh,
But then he would have to find a replacement for himself for his podcast. That's a whole thing.
there. All right. But speaking about people who got voted out too early in an all-star season, Sierra Easton.
Yep.
You should have seen my face when she was voted off first.
Really.
I was hurt, I was shocked, and I was just like, I haven't felt so distraught since Glenn died on The Walking Dead, or
Uh,
the aftermath of just like, heck. That's how I felt a lot about that season. Like,
yeah. Um, I actually predicted her as the first boot in that season.
really,
Because I was looking at the tribes and I was like, why would you keep Sierra in this group? Because she's not the strongest. Everyone knows she wants to make a big move. She basically set herself up to be a first boot in a returning season.
to be honest, I thought Tony was going to be because they didn't have Russell Hantz, and Tony is like a side grade of Russell,
Uh,
where Tony is a bit more, I would say, like he's very innovative in the way he played Survivor, like the Spy Shack and then the Spy Trench, and then like all this different stuff. Where I thought, oh, he's going to be eliminated because like he's too dangerous. Also, he's a winner, so that
yeah.
also puts a target back. Why I love Sierra, her first season, you know, I just felt like because she kind of went down a rough path in the beginning of like her life. Not just we're not talking about Survivor, and the fact like she was able to bounce back from this and then have this like healthy relationship with her mom, and then like her being willing to make big moves and play the game hard the way she did. That's kind of like why I liked her. With all of that encompassed, she was inspiring and fun to watch. Made moves.
Yeah, she was the advocate for big moves. Which, to be fair, if you're on the bottom, you want everyone to make big moves.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But like I guess that's part of the reason I liked her too was because of her backstory and like overcoming it of
Mhm.
like overcoming like um like because she kind of turned her life around and then built a better relationship with her mom and everything, and then she kind of became a person of her own. She wasn't just someone that was just tethered to like the gimmick of Blood versus Water. She
Mhm.
became an all-star in her own right.
Yeah.
um
She's one of the few to break away from that half returning season as one of the newbies. She's one of the few people to actually do that.
yeah. Oh, another honorable mention, Eric.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking that as I said that.
um Yeah, but I think that's part of the reason why she is so great is because she was able to break that mold,
hmm
um, because she was that great. I mean, so did Brad Culpepper, but like Sierra's been back 3 times. I'm hoping a fourth to erase Game Changers.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the cards because a lot of times when they have a first boot after returning a lot of times, it's like, I don't know, do they want to play again or do they want to become another Francesca?
I mean, people were worried about that with Tina when she came back from Blood
Yeah,
versus Water. Literally, I
yeah,
was watching the video and it was like, why would they bring Tina back? Do they want another Francesca on their chase?
yeah,
But I'm like, no, like people can improve. It
yeah.
can happen.
That's why I'm afraid of a first boot season because if they bring Francesca back and her tribe loses, they're definitely voting out Francesca.
Just for the sheer he would
Yeah.
have to be a big asshole to do that. But I
Yeah, but
feel
then
like
then that means no one else becomes a two-time first boot.
uh,
Yeah. Okay. You take over the number 4.
all right. Now we both chose pretty iconic people. We're getting to the
For
part
for
where
different reasons, very different reasons.
it's in some ways polar opposites. We have Russell Hantz for Joe's pick and
Yep.
John Cochran for mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also both put them actually as our number 2 picks, but our top 3 like numbers
We
are
actually common.
Yeah, exactly. Except for one of them, but one of them is my number one. So.
Yeah, but I mean, for good reason. Actually, yeah. Number 3 has his number 1 pick. So anywho, I digress. Why I love Cochran? One, when I was like, this is also early time when I'm watching Survivor. Cochran was like the first like real geek that I saw, and I related to him a lot. You thought I'm a geek now. Look at me back then. Um, and then I thought he was cool. And back again with that underdog status, like I really, really liked him. He was so passionate about the game, and he was on the bottom, but like he fought back. Like it was like, yeah, it seemed like he might have been an early boot, and like his tribe did not respect him, but like he got his revenge. He was like, all right, you guys don't want to play with me. Oh, tribal, it's the merge. I'm gonna go with Goat and vote all of you off. So it was like that sweet little revenge. And then when he came back, he dominated that season, being the third person in history to get a unanimous jury vote, because like he brought the right people. No one was truly gunning for him or had the power to take him down. It was his season to win, and he won it in style.
Yeah. And also let's not forget when he was on Redemption Island against Ozzy, he almost beat Ozzy in a challenge.
It's much.
Yeah, and he was the immunity beast on Caramoan.
Oh yeah, winning everything in the end.
Yeah.
My one thing is like, I don't know why he is not back for season 40.
Yeah, it's because he's a producer now for CBS.
Why didn't he just quit that and just...
Yeah, I think it's because he knows so much now about how survivors run. He feels like he has an unfair advantage. Also, he's one of the smart people who is like, well, I've won once, why would I play again?
Good point. But still.
Yeah, I feel it like we do want him back. Just like how I really want Russell Hantz to come back.
Oh.
I'm gonna get so much hate for everything I'm about to say about Russell Hantz. Because I almost put him as my number one. Because, first off, Samoa. I don't care what anyone says. He should have won that. I know he was mean-spirited and all that kind of stuff. But had he not played the way he played, Natalie gets voted out pretty early in the merge, and she does not win. Russell somehow, through every vote at that merge, completely controlled the game and just makes it to the end. Sure, he was very cocky. Like I think if he wasn't cocky at the final tribal, maybe he gets a little more. But yeah.
But also, that's part of Russell's charm is that, like, if we're thinking of like a true villain within the entire freaking canon of Survivor, the first person you think of is Russell Hantz.
He is the ultimate villain.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
There is no light side to him. He is just pure evil.
Yeah. And then Heroes vs. Villains, I don't think he should have won that season, but he was entertaining as hell throughout the entire thing.
Orchestrated one of the biggest blindsides ever. And then, like, the only person that no one knew, and he took advantage of that. And he was such a big threat that, when he returned another time, his tribe threw a challenge just to get rid of him.
Yeah, and also with Redemption Island, the 3 episodes he was in my opinion, were the 3 best episodes of the season, because it becomes the Boston Rob show after that. And you can like Boston Rob and everything, but it's just hard to get into a season where it's just like, well, Boston Rob's winning this, and you already know it from episode 4.
Yeah, that is the one problem when they bring like a certain amount back. It's guaranteed, except Ghost Island.
Yeah.
That, at least one of them is going to make it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
we'll get on that later.
Yeah.
But he always seemed like one where, or not Ghost Island, Edge of Extinction. Anyway, back to Russell. He's just like, when I look at him, because like he was like the first season I saw start to finish, like he was the one where I thought he was going to win. Like when he wasn't voted out early, I'm like, okay, this man is going to win this game, because like usually playing hard is a terrible strategy, especially nowadays where guns for the person with the biggest gun.
But honestly, like no one wanted to play in the pre-merge of Samoa. Like I just was recently rewatching it, and I was like, why are people just going along with whatever he says?
And he's the first person to look for an idol without, having to be told a clue. Like first person to, try that. So he made that like mold breaker. He innovated that.
It's funny because I was seeing he told Jason about how he's going to go look for the idol without the clue, and Jason was just like, Russell's got this crazy idea that he's going to find the idol without the clue, and then that same day he finds the idol without a clue and shows Jason, and he's just like, well, I guess Russell has the idol now.
And he found a second one the same season.
Yeah, 2 idols, no clues, and now it's like that's the norm. They don't really have clues in normal Survivor anymore. Occasionally, but not normally.
Like he's, like there's a reason why, like I said, if he came back again, he would definitely be voted out first because he's too dangerous in the game. It's like you know what he's going to do. That's not the thing. It's like, but is he going to target you? Like he, like I said, is the most iconic villain. When I first heard heroes versus villains, my mind already was like, all right, so granted, I don't know many players, but Russell Hands will definitely be in this.
Yeah, and it's very telling if someone plays and then within 2 weeks they're back playing again. That means that production loved them when they were playing.
Yeah, and everyone loved Russell. He won the sprint thing twice.
Yeah, the fan favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what else is there to say? Like I don't know what the audience at home, but I totally respect your decision for choosing Russell.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be the haters out there, but I really think just out of pure enjoyment of Survivor, he's great.
That's respect for that.
Yeah. On to number 3.
Right. Is it me or you?
I think it's you.
All right. So we've talked about one of these people, and it is Joe's number 1 pick. We have Tony from Survivor, Bronze versus Range versus Beauty, Game Changers, and Winners at War. And then for my pick, and also Joe's pick, but I had this person higher on the list for me, Johnny Fairplay.
Yeah, you had him ranked 4. I had him ranked 8.
Yeah. Part of the reason I chose Johnny Fairplay, so I just freaking loved him in Pearl Islands. This was also when, like I said, I started watching things out of order. And it was one of the earlier seasons that I did see that, when I was going archiving back. And, he was just super entertaining. You never knew really what he was going to do. And he was like, you kind of know that he's an asshole and that he's going to do something shifty, but no one really did anything about it. Also, the grandma thing is iconic.
Yeah, it's one of the few moves in Survivor that people who don't watch Survivor probably have heard about at some point.
Exactly. Now, me personally, granted, I do have like a special bond with my grandma.
Mhm.
So when he did that, I'm like, you son of a bitch. That's genius.
Yeah.
And honestly, now having seen all the seasons, I'm like, you know, I wish they brought him back again because I didn't like how he went out first in
Micronesia.
yeah, it just especially the way he it was all in his head and stuff. Like you felt like something was wrong with baby or um and I was like, no, you don't deserve to go out this way. And I legit when I was watching the seasons prior to like Samoa, I watched that season, and when he got voted off, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch something else, and I'm gonna come back to this. I was
Yeah.
upset because I'm like, he deserved a better send off. He deserved. He didn't have to go, but he chose to go, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, and it kind of came out of left field because it didn't seem like he was feeling that way going to tribal, and then all of a sudden he basically gave up.
If anything, it seemed like he was the one about to orchestrate everything because you know he's
Yeah.
he's just that kind of player where it's kind of like, all right, he's a bit of a wild card, so let's stick with him so he doesn't try and pull any shenanigans on me.
Mhm.
And I remember like when I was watching like a top 10, it was a Watch Mojo thing of like top 10 greatest shows of all time. Like Survivor was number 10. And then I saw that he was in Fans versus Favorites. Granted, I knew like Parvati won and everything. And like the people that returned for Heroes versus Villains, I kind of knew-ish where they placed.
Mhm.
But when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I gotta see Fans versus Favorites now. I got to.
Mhm.
And I was so torn when that happened. And I feel like
Yeah.
kind of like with Sierra, um, you never really know how much you love a contestant until
Until
they're
they.
off early and
Yeah.
you miss them.
Yeah, he was great. And he brought up pro wrestling and Survivor, and I'm a big pro wrestling fan. Yeah. As we know, I also enjoyed Johnny Fairplay because he was my number eight. But I'm giving you kind of the big talk about why he's a great character. So I have Tony Vlachos as my number one, and you can kind of tell my favorite archetype based on my number one and two on my list of Tony and then Russell. I just I love the villains. The villains really make a season for me. If you have a very compelling villain who's strategic, great character, the season gets elevated somehow.
Well, I mean, because it's just kind of like with wrestling, you have the heel, you have
Hmm.
the bad guy. Everyone wants to see the bad guy get overthrown.
Hmm.
And like Tony, like I said, kind of like a side grade to Russell Hands, where it's like Russell 2.0,
Hmm.
except Tony was able to actually win.
Tony played a better game than Russell in the fact that people still liked Tony after he blindsided them because he was still a likable guy in the end, whereas Russell would vote them out and would almost be like spitting on them as they're leaving.
Yeah. Also,
um, yeah.
my favorite part was in Game Changers. It was just so funny. It was like, I'm gonna go looking for the idol.
Yeah, like they haven't even started building the shelter. They haven't even been like doing any introductions or any of that stuff. It's just like we landed, find an idol. And
And
that was Tony's downfall is that if you go back to Cogdian, he didn't play an aggressive game pre-merge. He played his aggressive game at the merge. And because of that, he remembers all of his time of the merge being this very aggressive player, and that's the association with him, is that he now thinks I have to be that person from day one.
well, I mean, also, it's kind of like how we were talking earlier in the video of like, different strategy. Do you change it up and all that? Because he's coming into this already have won.
And still being a big threat after going out second in Game Changers.
Yes. Well, I mean, when he comes into Game Changers, he's already thinking, "You're right. All right, I already won. Um, everyone here is, has played before. Some of these people have seen me. So, come. Maybe it's that little Brooklyn mentality of like go hard or go home, or something like that. And then like expanding upon the Spy Shack, not just like the Spy Shack was ingenious. It's like designing the shelter to have another purpose, but also when was it the Spy Burrow or
Spy
the
Bunker.
Spy Bunker? That's like next level stuff. Like how sometimes sequels up the stakes and it doesn't feel organic.
Yeah.
It's felt like a sequel to the Spy Shack where it upped the stakes and it felt like the next big thing and it felt organic. Whereas like, yeah, there's shelter, but this motherfucker just buries himself in the sand.
Yeah. Watch. In Winners at War, he's going to build a spy tree house.
Oh, dude. I'm excited for him to come back.
Yeah. I think he's definitely one of the most entertaining winners the series has ever seen.
I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Like he's and then like even when they were talking during the reunion show for Game Changers, his just like relationship with Sarah of like how he was making gameplay with her and stuff before like they got on and stuff like that. And then the manipulation with Wu.
Uh-huh.
And like
Wu wins that game if he takes Cass.
Honestly, when I first saw Cass, I compared her to a blank stamp, rubber stamp. I got like zero impression from Cass the first time I saw her.
Yeah.
Like, granted, she proved that, she can cause chaos. Mm-hmm. But like when I first saw her, I was like, why? Like, why didn't you choose someone more interesting? But then as time went on, I'm like, oh, okay. I see what the casting people saw in you.
Yeah.
But like the way Tony was able to orchestrate things, and then like using an idol as like a fake out. Where it was like, oh, it's all its power.
Yeah. He has yet to play an idol correctly. It's weird looking back because like he was the idol guy. He was an idol guy, but he never used it right.
I mean, as we saw with last season, using an idol is very, very tricky.
Yeah.
Especially, well, we'll see next season with how crazy everything is going to be.
Yeah, there's gonna be like an idol every day. They're just gonna be putting out idols crazy.
It's gonna be nuts. But at the end of the day, I think Tony, hopefully he's not voted out too soon because he was another vote off I was upset about with Game Changer.
Oh like, yeah, I saw your Facebook post. You posted about Tony, and I remember that.
Yeah, Sierra and Tony. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to take number 1 or 2?
I think we'll do. I'll go with number 2.
Okay. All right. You take number 2.
Early in the video, I talked about someone where their first season, I really didn't get any impression on them, like mostly because they were an early out. But in later seasons, this person grew on me, and I began to root for her. And I also mentioned Edge of Extinction. Now, this person is Kelly Wentworth.
Dun dun dun.
On our list, she was number 3 on my list because I liked Cochran and number 1 a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But like, wow, like she was so great in Second Chance. She totally like blew my expectations. just like the guts she had in the very first challenge to get the idol, like, because that's the first time we ever saw it. It was like, what? It's there during the challenge. What if someone sees you? Like,
Yeah.
now it's kind of like, oh, that's just a thing you do, and you just have to be cool about
Yeah,
it.
because now
Like,
Troy's and Elaine have done it.
yeah, but like during that time, that was like so crazy to that's like, oh crap, that is like super super risky. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And she went for it, and then she made her own in that season, like, and then making it, to the finale, nonetheless. Like,
Yeah.
uh, if it wasn't,
I don't know if she beats Jeremy, but she definitely beats Spencer and Tasha if she makes it to the end.
the way she was playing that season, I will probably admit, yeah, probably be. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Especially since she was kind of the underdog for that, especially late game.
Uh-huh.
I definitely think so. And out of all the returning players for Edge of Extinction, she's the one that lasted longest.
Yeah.
When she got voted out, I was like, no, not her.
Yeah, and she still had an idol in her pocket, I believe.
Yeah, and that was like, crap.
Yeah.
I mean, they made her feel safe, and also,
Yeah.
it like I said before, usually if there's like, usually if it's a returning player season where there's like maybe 2 or 4 or 3, one of them is bound to make it to the end. Edge of Extinction was the first one that, was like, nah, he doesn't make it.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's kind of like one of those things of like, I was rooting for her. Well, it's hard to say with Game Changers, or not Game Changers, Second Chance, because there were quite a few people I liked in that season.
Yeah.
But also with, Island of the. There's so many different season names.
Yeah.
It's Edge of Extinction. Like she was one where I was like, all right, this is your season. This is yours to win. And she got voted out. And I'm like, damn. But yeah, that's why I like her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's great. She was my number 4, so we pretty much had her at like the same area of greatness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great because I mean her first season she was 5th out.
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember her. Like she was just kind of like a throwaway character.
I'm not gonna lie. When we were voting for Second Chance, I voted for Kelly Wigglesworth, and I only wrote Kelly down, or I wrote Kelly W down. I didn't realize there were 2 Kelly W's.
Oh my gosh.
So I think I started also picking her as well, because I would end up with like one left over where it's like, wait, I didn't vote them? It's okay.
Ah.
So yeah, it's funny that way.
Yeah. I'm glad she came back though.
But yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And one of the early outs that redeemed themselves in later seasons, kind of like Boston Rock.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's get on to our number 1 because this has already been a really long podcast. So we have a Spencer Bledsoe. That is Ryan's number 1 and my number 3. Spencer. Another reason why Kaguya is so great is because it has Spencer. Somehow, he is always on the bottom. Always.
Yeah.
On the bottom. He should go home. Almost every single vote. And he doesn't.
When they were arguing whether or not to keep him over Jatia, it was like, Jatia's fucking everything up. Why is that even an option?
Yeah, and the fact is, like, it was close. Spencer was almost the 3rd person voted out of Kaguya, or 4th person voted out of Kaguya.
It was like he was fighting pretty hard in that game, which I'm also glad. Granted, Jeremy won, But like he also made it pretty far the next game he played in
Yeah.
Second Chance. He had it easier, which my heart was able to take that. But
Yeah.
like,
But like even then in pre-merge, he went over to Jeremy's tribe, and Jeremy's tribe had the numbers over him. And luckily, Spencer actually learned to form relations and got in with Jeremy and was able to kind of uh, make it so that he wasn't the next person to go home.
yeah, yeah,
And created a alliance that actually would go somewhere in the game.
which is rare. Like usually
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
uh,
And
no,
that season was still voting blocks where everything was going, but because he was with Jeremy, he was often on the right side.
exactly. Also, like I remember one of my favorite things about Kagayan was also, like he literally had the idol in his hand. He didn't want to take it out, and just like it was so entertaining. Like he was digging in the wall. He has an idol in hand. Cass is right there, and he's like, "Oh, I really need this to win."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing, I just feel like he's a very relatable guy. He also had that underdog status. But he's not like Cochran in the sense of like, yeah, he's nerdy, but he's not like, too nerdy,
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
also, it's funny because Jeff, in the like little preview thing for it, for
Uh-huh.
Kagayan, he was like, there is absolutely no way Spencer was going to win this game.
And he was this close.
Yeah, I feel if he made it to the end, he probably would have won.
Yeah. He wins that immunity challenge where he gets voted out. He gets to number 3. They probably want to vote Tony, so Wu would have probably gone home, most likely. And then it's all up to that immunity challenge of who gets to take Cass to the end.
Yeah.
That's literally
Like,
what could have happened.
what do you do that? It's interesting. If Tony and Spencer were at the final tribal, it's compelling in the sense of like both of them. Tony played a pretty strategic game, probably one of the best games we have seen
Mhm.
of a player that won. And then we have Spencer, who, super, super underdog, had a rough start since the beginning of this game, had to pretty much claw his way to make it to the end. I feel like that would have been a much tighter vote.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting final too.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I hope, Spencer comes back for another season.
He stated he will not come back.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know. He's very much like, no, this game is not for me anymore.
Well, at least he gets to keep his record intact. Like,
Yeah. He played 2 games and went really far in both of them.
made it to the finale. So 4 and second/third place. We're just
Yeah.
gonna.
He got second. He did better than Tasha.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that kind of average, especially with how Survivor is, that's a pretty good.
That's respectable. Yeah, very respectable. Okay, well, this has been quite a long podcast,
But it was
and
fun.
we went through all of our favorite players. So if you were ever wondering who we valued, like what kind of characters we valued on Survivor, now you got a little insight on how we think.
And it's just fun talking about these great characters because like even people that weren't on my list that were on your list, these are characters I enjoy. Like, characters I also thought were cool, like Russell, like Parvati, Malcolm. It's just fun to talk about, different Survivor characters.
Yeah.
Because there have been so many great people throughout the years that have played the game. And, like, it's always fun talking to a fellow Survivor fan about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
it's a good, and I feel it's a good reflection on series or seasons past when we're going to season 40, where we have all the winners.
Yeah.
I,
Gosh. Yeah. I'm salivating thinking about season 4 already.
I know, like before we start recording, I was looking at the trailer again because I haven't watched it um, since the 39 finale.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm super hyped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this is where we're gonna end our podcast for the night.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you guys stayed this long. Watch all of
Yeah.
us watch these two nerds from two different time zones talk
Yeah.
about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And stay classy, YouTube.
Chill.